I've played a lot of powerful teams on ladder, from Rain, Sunroom, Mega Charizard Sun, Floette Balance to Kangaskhan Shenanigans, and I've had the most success with Floette. Like I mentioned, I started with Floette Balance, focusing on bringing in Floette in optimal conditions only. But setting up those conditions felt difficult with my Corviknight on speed control duty and Rage Powder Volcarona fake out Sneasler to set up Calm Mind. Not that Calm Mind needs to happen for Floette to be good, but it made for my bulky build to thrive. So I went on ladder to figure out what was missing. I first found out that Corviknight wasn't a sufficient speed control engine for me. Being a slow Tailwind setter, it didn't offer any speed boost turn 1. So then I felt maybe Whimsicott was just my best bet, but then I furthered my disadvantage against the mini steel Pokemon in the format, and Evil Sneasler. Then I thought maybe Talonflame, but I didn't want to double up on the fire. It is different because it's immune to ground, but Rock Slide still scares both. Then on my adventures on ladder, I spotted a few Aerodactyls. At first I didn't see the vision, but then I gave it a test run and I instantly fell in love with it. I took inspiration from C-Buddy and Z-Banded on X, and a few teams from the Nino Pokebros tour last night, and started running games with the core of Aerodactyl, Garchomp, and Floette. The first team was that trio bolstered by Sneasler, Incineroar, and Rotom Wash. In my games, I was a huge fan of Rotom Wash, medium on Incineroar, and low on Sneasler. I do like Sneasler, and in my opinion, it's a top 5 Pokemon in this format. It just didn't provide much for the team. I already have Archaludon covered with Garchomp, and it furthers my difficulties into Aegislash and Corviknight. Corviknight, I already have covered with Rotom Wash, but I had a few ideas about Rotom Wash. But my favorite lead for this team was Aerodactyl Garchomp, and a simple lead Incineroar pushed that lead to its limits. Intimidate both and offer Fake Out on Aerodactyl to push back my speed control, and if I call that out with a Protect on Aerodactyl, a Fake Out targeting Garchomp pushes my whole game plan back 2 turns. So my first thought was to try competitive Milotic on the team, and I didn't want to double up on bulky waters, so Rotom took a backseat for now. Milotic was initially just a piece for anti-intimidate, and funnily enough, I first ripped Sneasler to give White Herb to Garchomp as a pseudo-clear amulet, but ultimately, I grew to love Milotic. The typical game plan with Milotic is just to click Icy Wind, but sometimes there's nothing that threatens it, or the Pokemon next to it is so threatening that it gets a free turn. During that turn, you can go for a Coil and set up for high accuracy Hypnosis. I will say this felt a little too gimmicky for me to go for very frequently since Icy Wind speed control is just so strong. Also, don't forget competitive boosted Scald is the real reason it's here, and that actually dishes out some chunks, and the chip from Icy Wind starts to look very real after a competitive boost. I'm considering taking off Coil Hypnosis for a more passive version of itself with Recover and Protect. The sustain from Protect Leftovers with Recover would be insane, but it may end up being a non-Pokemon if it's alone at that point. I got a bit off track with the Milotic adaptation and never talked about why I actually love the lead Aerodactyl Garchomp. It offers so many incredible options. Double Rock Slide Earthquake, dual Wingbeat, Whimsicott. The lead dismantles the very popular Sun Core of Charizard Y and Venusaur. And I think the lead gets a lot stronger with Protect on Garchomp because Tailwind Protect is very strong. But I wanted this team to be a bit more aggressive, so I just click attack move with Garchomp, and it's been working really well. Once again, might be a lot worse in open team sheet format, but for laddering, this lead is incredibly strong. I never talked about Floette. Floette's really strong. People are comparing it to Xerneas. It's not Xerneas, but it is really strong. Getting this Pokemon in while speed controls are optimal is the name of the game here. And we have 3 different streets of speed control. Of course, we have Tailwind Aerodactyl, Icy Wind Milotic, and the third is actually Scarf Rotom-Mow, bringing Electro Web to the table. Other than that, Rotom-Mow doesn't really do a lot. It's kind of just a normal choice Scarf guy, but it can sit next to Earthquaking Garchomp, and that's pretty good too. For that reason, I did consider putting Discharge on here, but right now I have Trick in that slot as a kind of gimmick. I don't know how I feel about it. I have not clicked Trick yet. And then the last Pokemon here is Incineroar. And I went for a bit more offensive of an Incineroar. Instead of going for Protect or maybe even a Taunt, I went for dual stab moves with Fake Out and Parting Shot. Anyway, let's show off a couple of games with the team. I decided to do post-game narration instead of during the game commentary. Comment down below which one is better. Here in this first game, we've got a Sun team with a Charizard, Venusaur, Sylveon, Incineroar, Sneasler, and Whimsicott. My typical Aerodactyl Garchomp lead crushes the Sun Core, which is the Charizard and Venusaur. I thought about maybe leading Milotic in case the Incineroar lead, but ultimately I wanted to be able to deal with Whimsicott plus X lead, so this is what I went with. Floette and Milotic in the back. My opponent's lead is Sneasler and Sylveon. Not the best lead for me. I decided to push the gas here and dual Wingbeat Sneasler and click Earthquake on Garchomp. This play was really bad if he simply clicks Protect on Sneasler, but I felt Hyper Voice plus Fake Out was coming, and this way whatever was the target of Fake Out, the other would knock out Sneasler. I don't want a Sneasler to be on the field when I bring in Floette, especially if Unburden is live. And if it's Focus Sash Sneasler, I'm boned. Fake Out targeting Aerodactyl is the play, flinching the Aerodactyl. Then my Garchomp goes Earthquake, and obviously it doesn't affect the Aerodactyl, and it knocks out the Sneasler and brings Sylveon to 49%. But then Sylveon returns the KO with Moonblast on Garchomp. Not the best outcome for my turn 1, but not the worst. I thought about bringing out Milotic in case of incoming Incineroar, and Sylveon doesn't threaten Milotic, so it was pretty safe. But regardless of what my opponent brings in here, Floette would be able to outspeed it, so I opted Floette. My opponent does bring in Incineroar, and that's an okay outcome for me. This next turn, I do a simple double protect maneuver to keep away from any fake out and maybe scout out some knowledge of this Sylveon. Incineroar fake outs the Floette, and Sylveon goes for a Hyper Voice. This is what I was kind of expecting on turn 1, and things got a little weird. This next turn, I thought about doing some switching around, but ultimately just went for a Rock Slide to start chipping away at this Incineroar, and Mega my Floette and Moonblast the Sylveon. Aerodactyl uses the Rock Slide, landing a little bit of chip on the Incineroar and bringing the Sylveon down to range. It was already in range. Here's a Moonblast. That's a dead Sylveon. I even land a flinch on the Incineroar, and my opponent just concedes. I didn't even see the 4th Pokemon. This time we have a Rain team, also featuring Sylveon, Basculegion, Pelipper, and Archaludon, with Incineroar, Sinistcha, and Sylveon. I opted to lead Garchomp and Rotom-Mow, with Floette and Milotic in the back. Incineroar didn't have much business here, only providing Intimidate on Basculegion, and a Fake Out here or there, and I felt like the speed control from Scarf Electro Web would go farther than Tailwind, since it could also threaten a lot of their team. My opponent's lead was Pelipper and Archaludon, setting Drizzle immediately. This was a pretty obvious lead, but maybe I could have done this turn better. I went for an Electro Web and Earthquake. This would combat a potential Tailwind and dish huge damage on both Pokemon. But I wasn't considering the stamina boost to make the Archaludon tank this Earthquake. Now this single targeting Earthquake is only bringing this Archaludon to about half, but it should still be in range to knock out with a Floette attack. Pelipper sets up a Tailwind, then I get Draco Meteored for an entire Garchomp, losing Garchomp turn 1 again. Now all I'm left with is a Floette and a Milotic in the back, but the way this Rotom set up this Electro Web makes it so that this Floette can pretty safely come in. My opponent switches the Archaludon into Sylveon, which isn't too bad for me. The Pelipper clicks Protect, which is also good for me, and of course clicked my Choice Scarf Electro Web again. Obviously, Pelipper is protected, but we get a little bit of chip on this Sylveon and a big speed down. I targeted down the Archaludon slot with Mega Floette Moonblast, bringing the Sylveon to 40%. I even hit the minus special attack on the Moonblast. A pretty solid turn overall. I mean, I lost nothing, but I gained a lot. I continued the Electro Web every turn for the rest of my life and took down the Pelipper and chipped the Sylveon to definite range for the second Moonblast, taking out both Pokemon. His last two were the half-health Archaludon from before and an Incineroar that's in the rain and intimidating two special attackers. My only real play here is protect Floette from the Flash Cannon and get Fake Outed, because obviously he's going to do that. Didn't expect a crit, but like, whatever, it's fine. Flash Cannon hits the protected guy, okay, whatever. Tailwind is gone. This is the big thing here. So I do the only sensible play, which is click Electro Web again, get a little bit of chip, get a little bit of speed. The speed is irrelevant at this point. And then Floette goes Moonblast into the Archaludon, taking it out. Incineroar knocks out my Rotom-Mow with a Flare Blitz, which is perfectly okay because my Floette could take out the Incineroar alone, but I also still have a Milotic in the back. Yep. Yeah. So I like this team a lot. I think the Aerodactyl Garchomp lead is incredibly strong. It brings in the Floette really safely. Not even just this lead, but every lead that offers a form of speed control. We might be struggling into Trick Room every now and again. We might just struggle into Trick Room. I don't know yet. Also, I'm only iffy on Coil Hypnosis. It might be too gimmicky. I don't know. Rotom-Mow is a good addition, but it's only a good addition. I think maybe it could be a better Pokemon. And also Incineroar could maybe be a better Pokemon. I know, crazy to say there could be a better Pokemon than Incineroar, but you get it. There will be a rental code for this team. You will have to have every Pokemon. That's just how rental codes work in this game. But it will be the pinned comment is the rental code. Currently, there's a server maintenance. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. You have to. You watch the whole video, you have to subscribe. Thank you.